For my next YouTube video, I have become interested in a life form that survives only on sunlight, air, and water. It is neither a plant nor an animal. My topic is lichen. While the oldest known living tree has survived 4,850 years, lichen have been known to survive 8,000 years. To begin my research on lichen species, I've been hiking through the open space around Boulder Ridge Park. This is where I met Grace. So what do you know about lichen?
I don't know anything about it. It's actually the first time that I hear the word. So.
And didn't study it in school?
No.
Nothing in high school?
Not that I remember of.
Oh, well, what would you think if I told you that there are formations here that are 250 years old?
What do you mean? Anything that's 250 years old. If it's a person, at least I would assume.
It's actually not a plant. It's not an animal. It's a living formation that could be 250 to 300 years old.
Where is it? Why is it hiding?
Well, we'll find that out in the video, won't we?
I see. That's interesting.
First, let us define what is lichen. It is neither a plant or an animal. It is found on every continent. Not only found on every continent, it can be seen in the open or hiding high above. The lace lichen is California's adopted state lichen. Within California, botanists have identified 1,575 different lichen species. Prior to 1869, botany categorized lichen as a plant. However, in science, there are always the dissenters trying to upset the apple cart. Enter Simon Schwendiner. Simon was a Swiss botanist. He had earned a PhD in botany and was the director of Basel's Botanical Garden. His research on lichen led him to counter the accepted belief that lichen was a plant. Simon countered that lichen was composed actually of fungus and algae. Within the lichen, he opined that the fungus kept the algae in perpetual captivity. The reason for the slavery was that the fungus needed the algae to produce nutrients for the fungus.
Mildred Schwendiner, or however you pronounce his name, is an orphanarf. Lichen is the plant. Lichen controls the algae. His theory makes me mad as hops. Looky here, the paper is now on fire.
To understand what happens next in our story, we need to stop for a moment and define photosynthesis. In simple terms, it is a process by which organisms, such as plants, algae, and some bacteria, can convert sunlight and carbon dioxide into carbohydrates, better known as sugar. In the process, and most important, oxygen is a byproduct and is released back into the atmosphere. The carbon dioxide, CO2, is left stored in the plant, fungus, or tree. One of the most efficient ways to remove carbon dioxide from our atmosphere is by saving our biodiverse forests. Schwendiner's theory was controversial. Fast forward 70 years. In 1939, botanist Eugene Thomas, through his experiments, proved that the relationship between the alga and the fungus was more complex. Simon was correct in that there was a relationship between the fungus and the algae. However, the relationship is not one way. Since the fungus cannot produce its own food, it needs the algae as a food source. The lichen and the algae have formed a partnership. The algae does provide the food to the fungus. The fungus in return provides structure to the fungus, like the bones in your body. In addition, the fungus provides the glue to bind the lichen to a rock or to a tree. While a fungus cannot provide its own food, this shelf or bracket fungus, a parasite, demonstrates its great strength and its ability to attach itself to a tree. 90% of lichen species will form a partnership with green algae. This leaves 10% to partner with a bacteria, cyanobacteria. Botanists call this relationship obligate symbiosis. On my fence, I noticed a colony of lichen. On closer inspection, I had not one but two species of lichen. Unlike mistletoe, which extracts water and food from its host, lichen does no harm to either my fence or to a tree. It provides its own food and only needs my fence to hang on to. How do you spend your time in our nature preserves? When it comes to understanding the science and beauty of lichen, it will require a different perspective. We need to slow down and observe. In Dr. Seuss's book, Horton Hears a Who, Horton, a very large elephant, discovers a tiny civilization so small that no one pays any attention to. The moral Horton learns is that we need to respect a person no matter their size. In our case, lichen is our tiny species, a tiny world that needs our protection. The cortex is the external structure of the lichen. Think of it as the lichen skin. When we identify different lichen structures, we are viewing the lichen cortex. To identify specific lichen species, we need to slow down and be observant. The identification of specific lichen species can be difficult. However, botanists have placed lichen into 3 large growth forms. They will help in identification. And yes, there are lichen species which will not fit into any of these 3 boxes. All 3 growth forms can be found in our Sierra Nevada foothill watershed. The 3 growth forms are foliose, fruticose, and crustose. Grab your camera, put on your boots, it's time to hunt lichen. Going for a hike? Downloading the National Park Service sketch might help in identifying lichen. Lichen identification can be difficult, as there are plants that may look similar, and yes, I said plants. Unlike lichen, moss species are plants. Moss has roots, stems, and leaves. Unlike lichen, moss can produce chlorophyll throughout its own structure. Our second plant is sedum. Sedum can produce flowers and fleshy leaves, where lichen cannot. Each of the 3 species of lichen has a unique role to play in a biodiverse watershed. Let us begin with foliose. Foliose has prominent lobes and is 2-dimensional. One species easy to identify is the common green shield lichen. Compared to other lichen species, green shield is fast-growing. You will see green shield attached to tree bark and is found throughout our watersheds. Green shield lichen creates a perfect home for small insects. Of course, insects are exactly what birds thrive on. A perfect example for our need for a biodiverse watershed. As you wander through the woodlands, look closely at the lichen on tree barks or on boulders. Lichen can be seen in very bright colors. For our next segment, we're going to need a little romantic music. Please. So how did my powdered edge ruffle lichen and its friends, Candelaria pacifica or maybe sunburst lichen, find my fence? Lichen can reproduce sexually via spores or asexually by breaking off small segments called soiridium. The soiridium will contain all the components of its parent, fungus, algae, and bacteria. Once it arrives at its new location, it will reproduce an exact copy of its parent. In either case, wind, water, or rain will send the lichen to a new location. As Ewok would say, grow and prosper. May the force be with you always. Hold on, Ewok. Stop the press. Science has introduced another way lichen can reproduce. Meet Orpetida, a tiny mite. They enjoy munching on lichen. As they munch, they consume lichen spores. When they have to do a number 2, they spread lichen spores in their fecal matter. Fruticose lichen can be shrubby, coral-like, pendant, or three-dimensional. Some have referred to it as mini shrubs. It can be seen hanging from trees. In Scandinavia, Scotland, or Greenland, you will find reindeer lichen. Moose, reindeer, goats will all munch on this species of lichen. While rare in Placer County's foothills and other California counties, old man's beard lichen will grow profusely, providing food for both deer and elk. Each spring, fruticose lichen can provide nesting material. Can you find the hooded Oreo in her nest? A bush tit also builds her nest. For 20 years I've walked by this vernal spring. Along the stream the rocks had appeared as if someone had painted the rocks a sulfur color. I now realize that what I thought was graffiti was actually lichen. Crustose lichen lies flat onto whatever surface it has attached itself to. Unlike other lichen, it is attached around its whole perimeter. It cannot be removed without digging into the surface it has attached itself to. What looks like someone just dumped paint or cement on a boulder is actually, yes, lichen. It gained its name, map lichen, because it looks just like a map. Some lichen species are acidic and can slowly dissolve minerals found within the rocks. In this example, lichen has attached itself to limestone. Limestone was created millions of years ago, often with the shells and skeletons of marine animals. The acid in lichen will slowly dissolve the calcium carbonate. Being firmly attached, the lichen can also penetrate into a boulder's smallest of cracks. Freezing and warming will cause expansion and contraction. This too can weather rocks. Why are these examples of weathering so important? The minute particles created by the lichen helps in soil development. Better soil means a healthier forest. The sunburst lichen's average growth rate per year may be as low as 1/2 millimeter. Under perfect conditions, it might take 100 years for a sunburst colony to reach the size of a fried egg yolk. Archaeologists and geologists use the growth rate of lichen as a tool in doing research. They even have a name for this tool, lichenometry. Lichenometry helps date archaeological monuments that otherwise could not be dated. Let's play anthropologist. You are hiking in Greenland. You come across a carving on a basalt cliff. You notice there is one colony of lichen growing on the carved fish. What steps would you take to date when the carving was completed? To understand how to use lichen to date a formation or a historical structure, we need to take a little field trip. No need to pack. It will seem like we will only be gone a few minutes. And yes, there will be a homework assignment following our trip. Our pilot has the GPS set for Lovell, Wyoming, and the nearest airport, Bighorn. Our destination is Medicine Wheel National Monument, located 30 miles from Lovell. With over 150 similar sites spread from Texas to Canada, Medicine Wheel National Monument is the most famous. Medicine wheels were built by indigenous tribes, but for what reason? Archaeologists believe medicine wheels might be astrological observatories, or possibly used as calendars. The term medicine wheel might be a poor translation from the Lakota language. When properly translated, it means sacred or powerful. With no written languages, dating when these structures were built is difficult, and that is why we are here. Can Lichen help date these structures? Was Medicine Wheel National Monument constructed pre-European contact or post-contact? To answer the question, we turn to a 2023 research paper written by Daniel Gardner. In his study, Gardner noted that archaeologists have uncovered artifacts around Medicine Wheel dating back to the 1700s. However, these artifacts could have come from an indigenous encampment and had nothing to do with the construction of Medicine Wheel. Gardner discovered a clue that might help solve the riddle. Growing on one of the monument's boulders, he found the sunburst lichen. However, just measuring the diameter of the lichen might not produce an exact age of the lichen or the monument's age. Growth rates of lichen can be affected by climatic change, land movement, or even the boulders having been moved in construction. To establish the rate of growth, Gardner needed to find a local site where sunburst was also present, a site where he could nail down specific dates. His search found two sites, the local cemetery and the University of Wyoming, which was founded in 1887. Both sites had sunburst lichen growing and had dates that could be verified. Using the measurements found on the three sites, he determined that the age of the monument was over 160 years old. He concluded that the Medicine Wheel Monument was constructed pre-contact. Your homework assignment: My hike in search for lichen. On your outing, you will need a ruler and a camera, or bring your cell phone. If you bring a cell phone before leaving, download the application Lichen AI. You will then be able to identify lichen while you are in the field. Back at base camp, a copy of a field book on California lichen by Stefan Sarnoff will be most helpful. Oh, I forgot. Don't forget to bring a pencil and a notepad. Can you find all three lichen categories? How many lichen species can you identify? A more complex project would be if you are able to use lichenometry and determine the age of an historic monument in your community. Nepal is a landlocked country situated in the foothills of the Himalayas. On the other side of the world, in northeastern Brazil, the Pancararu people live. Indigenous people worldwide living in diverse locations have found important uses for lichen. The Nisenan and Maidu people lived in the northern foothills of the Sierra Nevada, and their people extended south into what is today Lincoln, Roseville, and Rockland. For thousands of years, they lived along the streams of Clover Valley Creek, Auburn Ravine, and Secret Ravine. You can still see their bedrock mortars where they prepared their food. When food was scarce, the Maidu and the Nisenan could turn to Willa lichen, known also as horsehair lichen. To take the bitterness out of the lichen and make Willa edible, it would first have to be boiled and the liquid drained off. Lichen was important in basket making. They decorated their basketry with dyes made from lichen. Both staghorn and oak moss lichens produced a vivid purple color. To bring out the color, the lichens were first soaked in ammonia. Wolf lichen produced a vivid yellow dye. Lichen was used in making brushes, used in making swaddlings for their infants, as well as making sleeping mats. They discovered specific lichen species could also cure the various ailments. Old man's beard was used in fighting lung and bladder infections. Willa lichen was used for bandages and wart removal and digestive troubles. Could our indigenous peoples' medical discoveries be of importance to modern medical science today? In a recent article, the Journal of Biomedical Research and Environmental Science found surprising uses of lichen that improve human life, treating wounds, skin disorders, respiratory and digestive issues, and even obstetrics. Lichens are important for our own survival. Lichens are like the canary in the coal mine. Lichens can only survive in clean air. Graffiti painted over lichens is just as deadly as a bulldozer. Few recognize the importance that lichens contribute to our watershed or the historic footprint they have made and will make in the future. Dr. Seuss was correct. A person's a person no matter how small. Dr. Seuss' wisdom applies to all life forms found in our watershed. A biodiverse watershed is a healthy watershed. If you are a resident of Nevada County, Placer County, or Sacramento County, our Dry Creek Conservancy Facebook page will be of particular interest. Learn about the many activities that are available for you, your family, and friends. Help save and improve our watershed. If you are interested in the fascinating history of Northern California, from pre-contact to the mid-20th century, please visit my YouTube website. You will also find videos on our watersheds and off-the-beaten-path places to visit. www.youtube.com/@MichaelStark1